Today we're going to read Elizabeth, Queen of the Seas by Lynn Cox, illustrated by Brian Flocka. It is up for a Show Me Award this year, 2016-17, in the state of Missouri, a Show Me Award nominee. Join us as we read it. There once was a lovely elephant seal who lived in the city. Most elephant seals live in the ocean in the salt water. They sleep on rocky coasts and they lie along sandy beaches. But this seal was different. She swam in the sweet, shallow waters of the Avon River, where it flowed through the heart of the city of Christchurch, New Zealand. When the seal grew tired, she would pull herself onto the shore with her front flippers, haul her black flippers in behind her, moving up the soft shore like a giant inchworm. She would stretch herself on the long, cool grass and take a nap in the bright sunshine. And when she got hot, she would use her flippers to toss the huge clumps of cold, wet mud onto her back. The seal's coat was silvery brown. She was 8 foot long as a long surfboard, and she weighed 1,200 pounds. That is as much as 15 Labrador retrievers. The people of Christchurch knew there was something very special about this seal. She was strong and powerful and regal, like Elizabeth, the Queen of England. And so they named her Elizabeth, Queen of the Seas. There was a small boy. His name was Michael. He looked for the elephant seal every day on his way to school and again on his way home. Even on the weekends, he walked beside the slow waters, hoping to see her. Though Michael knew he would never get too close to her, because after all, she was a wild animal. He liked to call her name. Elizabeth! Hello, Elizabeth! Queen of the Seas, are you there? And if Elizabeth were near, she would turn and look at Michael with her dark brown eyes, and then she would snort once to clear the water from her nostrils, and once again, as if to say hello. Early one morning, when the grass was still wet, Elizabeth hauled herself up to the top of the riverbank, and she stretched out across the road. Maybe she liked the feel of the warm firmness under her belly. Maybe it was the sunshine fanning across her back. But whatever reason, she decided to stay in the road. I don't think seals belong on the road. Suddenly, there was a screeching of the brakes. Elizabeth moved forward as quickly as a 1,200-pound seal with flippers could move. Bang! The car hit a rock and dented his fender. Then Elizabeth threw herself across the road, and another screech. Second car just missed her. Elizabeth, Queen of the Seas, slid down the riverbank and belly flopped into the water. Elizabeth escapes death by a flipper's breath, the Christchurch newspaper said the next day. All over town, people were talking. Some were afraid Elizabeth would climb into the road again and get hit by a car. Others were worried she would cause a terrible accident. So they decided that maybe it would be a great idea for her to live with the other elephants. If she lived far away from the city, she wouldn't be a danger to anyone. So one day, a group of volunteers in a small motorboat waited until Elizabeth was in the river. Then they approached her. Slowly and very gently, they looped a rope around her body. As they drove and towed Elizabeth down the Avon River, the boy cried from the bridge. "Don't take my elephant seal away," he cried. "This is where she belongs." But the boat went on, far away into the silty, brownish green river mouth, led into the cold, dark ocean. At last the boat reached a sandy beach where other elephant seals were. There the crew set her free. Before Elizabeth, hundreds of elephant seals lay squished together, huge males 3 times the size of the females, roaring, bellowing, and even belching. Mother seals called to their babies with squeaks and squawks and whimpers, and the babies squeaked back. Maybe it was because the beach was too crowded and noisy. Maybe she missed Christchurch. Or maybe there was some other reason that we will never know. But Elizabeth chose not to stay. Instead, the Queen of the Seas turned around and made herself as streamlined as possible, tucking her front flippers, close in her sides so that she could move slowly and swiftly through the water. Because across the ocean is where she needed to go. Back across the cold open ocean she swam. Where do you think she's going? Into the sweet, warm Avon River. Still on she swam past the wispy willow trees that lined the beautiful shore until she reached her favorite sunbathing spot by the bridge. There she hauled herself out onto the riverbank and lay across the warm road. "Elizabeth, you're home," Michael shouted. And Elizabeth lifted her big head, looked at him with her dark brown eyes, snorted loudly once, and then snorted again. It wasn't long before all over Christchurch, people were running down the riverbank, jumping on their bikes to see Elizabeth. The traffic safety officers called the boat crew again, and they caught Elizabeth again. This time they towed Elizabeth to a seal colony far, far away from the city. Each day Michael looked for his friend on the way home from school. Each day there was no one there to greet him. But then, one day, miraculously, Elizabeth was back, looking up at Michael and snorting before her pulling her great body out to sun herself along the road. When Elizabeth was taken away the next time, this is the 3rd time. When she was taken away the next time, people thought that they would never see her again. The boat towed Elizabeth hundreds and hundreds of miles from Christchurch before letting her go. And as the seal pulled herself out of the ocean onto the large rocks along the shore, she watched the boat turn and head back to Christchurch. A month passed. Michael and his friends rode their bikes. They swam the river. They built forts. They explored. They lay in the wild fields outside Christchurch, and they read great books. And they always watched for Elizabeth. And then a 2nd month passed. And then almost a 3rd month. Michael watched the water. He wished upon the stars. And then one warm summer morning, Elizabeth was back almost 3 months later. There in the water beneath the bridge was the beautiful elephant seal, who weighed as much as 15 Labrador retrievers. "Welcome home, Elizabeth," Michael shouted. Elizabeth looked at him with her dark brown eyes and snorted once again. And then snorted again. Michael ran to tell his friends, who told their families, and who all came down to the spot on the bridge, looking out on the sun-speckled water. And they cried, "Welcome home, Queen of the Seas." This time was different, see? The people of Christchurch love Elizabeth, and so they decided to put up a sign on the road where she liked to sleep. It was a bright, yellow, large sign with black letters, and it said, "Slow Elephant Seal Crossing." To this day, the townspeople wonder how on earth Elizabeth managed to travel so far. They know she must have swam through huge waves and strong currents. She must have swum tired, but she kept on swimming, and she must have even swum while she slept, night after night, day after day. And they like to imagine that at last, when she reached the mouth of the Avon River, she swam upon a stream of moonlight until she reached the shore. There once was a lovely elephant seal who lived in the city, and that is exactly where she belonged. The end. This is a true book, non-fiction. This is the real Elizabeth, Queen of the Seas.